Hi, and welcome to Stories and Spoilers, the podcast. It is your host here, Alyssa, with my amazing guest author here, who is the author of Match Me If You Can, Swati. I'm so sorry, I don't want to say your name wrong. Hegde. Yes. This book is like the love child of Emma and You've Got Mail. It is cozy, it is sweet, it's got a little bit of spice and warmth, and it is wonderful. So, Swati, please tell them more about yourself.
Okay, hi everyone. And first of all, Alyssa, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love doing podcasts. So, this is like my favorite way of doing self promo. This is my favorite way of doing promo at all. So hi to everybody listening. My name is Swati Hegde, and I'm a Desi romance author and soon to be young adult author
Whoop, whoop.
from Bangalore, India. Um, I think my official bio says something like, you can always find me at the nearest coffee shop with a hot
Yes.
mug of tea because I'm a tea person. Or you can find me at karaoke night singing my favorite Taylor Swift songs because I'm a huge Swiftie.
We love a
But
Swiftie.
yes. And that's pretty much about me. I'm really excited to be talking about Match Me If You Can, which is my debut romance novel, which came out in June this year.
Hmm.
And this is like literally like this book is like my child, my favorite child. Don't
Oh.
say that to my second book, but it is probably my favorite child. Do you want me to share a little bit about the book?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna read it out from the back because I get like really I stumble on my words when I don't do that. So
Totally understand.
yeah. So, Match Me If You Can is about a young magazine writer in Mumbai who must prove her matchmaking skills and contend with growing feelings for her close family friend. So, it's pretty much Emma, but make it Indian
Mm,
and add in like way more angst because you have the male POV in this one as well.
I
So, it's
love
not
it.
just Emma's POV, it's like the Mr. Knightley character also has his own POV, which
Mhm.
honestly was my favorite part of writing this book.
I loved Jimin so much. He felt like that best friend who just wants a shot, and he like always loved her, and he would kind of get. I think there's a part in the book where he says he would take any part of her he could have.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that line.
Which is so beautiful. Your book feels like for anyone who's looking for friends to lovers, who's looking for a slow burn, who's looking for that dual POV where, he falls first and then she kind of does have feelings for him, but it begins to slowly build and build and build. And there are references to grief in this book. So for readers who that might be a little bit sensitive for, just so you know that it is there, but it is so like vulnerable and it felt so like it brought the characters together and that element. I feel like it's a bookshop we don't talk about a lot where it's the I'll take care of you.
Yes.
Wow. Also, love language is food. Okay. Our love interest is a pub owner. He's also a mixologist, a bartender. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your inspiration was for this couple?
So obviously, if you really look at it from like the foundation of Gia and Jemun, of course, it's borrowed heavily from Emma. However, because I think with Emma, right, the only issue I had with Jane Austen's books is that they didn't have the male POV, and I
Mm,
understand why, because it's obviously social commentary. There's so many elements of feminism in it, so it doesn't really make sense to have the man's point of view because like
I can see
men
that.
had everything back then. So
Yeah,
why give them a POV on top of that?
I could see that.
However, for Match Me If You Can, when I was like really thinking about how I want to be writing these characters, it was very easy for me to figure out what Gia should be like. Um, just because Emma had so much material for her.
Mm,
But on the flip side, with German, I was like, okay, well, we don't know too much about the Mr. Knightley character apart from the fact that he's cynical and they're always butting heads. But like,
it's
what
true.
more can I add to him? Like, how can I make him my own, character that can like stand on his own feet and
Mm.
isn't just going to be called Mr. Knightley? He's going to be called German Patel because that's who he is. And I've always really wanted to write like a foodie romance.
Mm.
And like just, and because this book is set in Mumbai, which, the food is so good in Mumbai. Like, I mean, I've been to Mumbai, I was in Mumbai for about 5 years of my life,
Oh,
and I
wow.
still miss the food every day.
What was your favorite food to eat there? That's probably a very difficult
I mean,
question, but
no, I think it's pretty simple for me. So there's something in Mumbai called chaat, which is it's basically street food. It's like
hmm.
when you go to the beach or you go anywhere, there's gonna be small guys, small shopkeeper guy like selling chaat on the street. Like he makes it on the spot and gives it to you. It's
Ooh.
like it's got like spicy, sweet, savory, like it's like a
Oh.
medley of flavors exploding in your mouth. And there's like
Wow.
there's like 20 different types of, dishes under this umbrella of chaat.
That sounds
So
so
that's
good.
definitely my favorite thing to have in Mumbai because Bangalore chaat is, very different. Where I live now, Bangalore, the chaat has its own distinct style, which I appreciate, but like Mumbai is Mumbai. And that's why like I knew my first book had to be set in Mumbai.
The
So with
location feels like
German,
a character
yeah.
too. Like
It
you
it
feel like
yeah,
you're there.
I've had so many reviewers like so I do this thing where I only read 5-star reviews of my book for my own mental health.
Good idea.
But like yeah, but like most of the 5-star reviews I've seen do mention like that they felt like they wanted to travel to India after this, or they wanted to go to Mumbai after this, or they felt like they were already in Mumbai when they were reading this, and that that made me so happy because the only thing I really want for my books is for them to feel, for the characters, the location, everything to feel real. Like you might not like my characters, but at least you felt something for them.
Exactly.
Like
I
that's
you
if
fall
I've
for
done
them.
that. Yes, exactly. So back to your question of how I came up with the characters.
Yeah.
So with Jeman, right? I think one reason I made him a mixologist in a pub owner is because there was while at the time of writing this book, there was this not web series, this TV show I was watching. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Four More Shots, Please. And it's
Ooh.
about these like four four women in I think they're in Mumbai. Four women in Mumbai who are like, just living their lives, very urban, very like modern
Hmm.
elements to it, and they're going about their life, they're dating, they're falling in love, they're getting their hearts broken, and then every night they meet at this pub and they like talk about how things are going. It's called Four More Shots, Please, because it's four
Wow.
of them. And in one of the love interests in that book is a pub owner and a mixologist.
Ooh.
And I don't
Okay.
think his personality is much like Jeman, and like he's got a whole different like backstory and everything, but I really liked that character, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I mean, I like the idea of writing a mixologist and figuring out like how that ties into the story at large, and like maybe having a pub as the setting, for a lot of the book would make sense because Mumbai is known for, all the parties and the drinking and the pub culture and all of that and the clubbing. And that's kind of how all of this came to be.
That is so dreamy. I feel like as well there is a scene in the book which is not necessarily a spoiler, but there is a relative who's getting married. And the way you describe the culture around weddings and the
Yes.
romance of it and the drama of it. If you look on my page, you'll see my celebrity casting for our two leads. I once again do not want to butcher anyone's names, but I casted Tina Desi as Gia and then Raoul Colley as Jemin. And I just felt like I could imagine like twinkly lights and all the flowers and the smells and
Yes.
the sea with there was a moment you mentioned that they were near water, but they could still
Yeah, they're like
the
standing by
sounds
the
of the
sea.
party. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Like you made Mumbai the main character as well. You fall for the couple
Yeah.
as well as the city. And
Oh, that's so nice of you to say.
yes, for readers who want to not only be swept away by the main characters, but also about found family and the friendships around the main characters, Match Me If You Can is the perfect book for you because it gives you all of that. You fall for the main character's dad and you care for him. You care for the main couple in the story, but you also care for her sister and her sister's partner. And it's just like it's so cozy. I did want to ask a little bit about what
Yeah.
inspires you to write contemporary romance in general? Like what draws you to this genre?
I think the reason so when I was a kid, right? I've been writing since I was a little kid. I think I wrote my first like story when I was like 8 years old, it was like 3 pages. But it was a thing. It was
That's
real.
so cute.
And it was always fantasy up until I was like 16, I think. Because when I turned 16, I read my first like actual romance novel.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, like this brought me so much joy and so much like hope because, when I was in high school, I was a dork. I was
Me too.
100% a dork. I used to just, talk about video games and books and Pokemon and stuff
Ooh.
like that. And, that wasn't necessarily attractive to, the guys who I liked. So I was pretty much hopelessly single all through high
Aw.
school. But these romance novels that I read, they just brought me so much hope, and I just felt like maybe someday I'll have my own love story. And the experience of just sitting on your couch at home on like a Sunday afternoon, you're done with your homework, and then you're just reading, just binge reading this romance novel until like
Yes.
it's late into the night. And I think that's what made me feel like I want to write romance someday because I want to make people feel the way these books make me feel.
Mm.
And
I
so
love the
that's
idea.
really, yeah, and that's really how I got started writing romance. And obviously, because I'd had no real romantic experience until I was 22, that was pretty challenging. I am now 28. Thankfully, I wrote Match Me If You Can after I'd had a couple of relationships, so I had at least a little bit more to base it on. But yes, I think romance is where I was always supposed to end up at the genre.
I get that.
Yeah, because it's like I know like a lot of non-romance readers think, it's silly or it's like just fluffy, but I don't know. I feel like romance is just so much more than just fluff or like, spice or smut. It's literally it's about life. It's about falling in love with yourself. It's about choosing to be brave and, be with the person you love instead of just, especially in an Indian romance novel context, because I like to think that, India's become a lot more contemporary now, but there's still so many arranged marriages happening. And it's not like the people getting married are forced into the marriage, but it's still like your parents find you someone, you say, okay, yeah, this person seems reasonable. And then 6 months later, you're married, or 3 months later, you're married to this person.
Wow.
And that happens a lot. Like I've seen so many of, my friends and people from college or high school who've gotten married at like 25, 26 to people they only met like a few months ago, and now they've got babies and stuff. And it's that's actually scary to me because I feel like 28 is still child marriage in my opinion, because I feel like a baby myself.
I am the
um
baby. How am I
yeah,
supposed to also
exactly.
create the
Right.
baby when I am still the baby?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I feel
exactly.
that. I also think that
Exactly.
you have a quote in the book that honestly sums up exactly why waiting for love and finding it and cherishing it and taking care of it is so important. In the podcast, I love to share my favorite quotes and books, and
Yeah.
there were two that really hit me hard. But the one that I wanted to shine a light on with your writing and how
Yeah.
amazing writing is, you wrote, if you decide there is only one perfect soulmate out there for you, who will love you so much and there'll never be arguments, then this distorted idea of love will keep you from giving a relationship your all and growing with your partner as you disagree, fight, and fall deeper in love. Your future partner becomes the one for you when you decide they are, when you commit to them despite their shortcomings, because you want them around even on their bad days, even when they're cranky and hungry, even when they're unemployed, even when they're battling cancer. You choose the one for you, and you continue to make that choice for the rest of your life.
Oh, I love that quote so
Oh
much.
my
I'm
gosh. You can that was one of those quotes where like I keep it in my phone. I'm gonna write it in my journal. I'm gonna keep this with me wherever I move, wherever I go. I'm gonna have this book with me because as someone who has relatives who are battling cancer right now, um you just wrote a book where it really does kind of highlight the importance of loving someone no matter what. And you
yeah,
there's space for romance. We need romance. We need love. We need love in all its
exactly.
forms. And your book kind of it gives it to us in all its forms. It gives us familial love, romantic love, friendship, also room for forgiveness. People in the book make mistakes. They're not perfect. But there's a tenderness that I don't see very often in romance, and your
What do
book
you mean?
provided that. Yeah, like when reading this book, I've found that in a lot of contemporary romances, I've read a lot of books this year.
Yeah.
For my listeners out there, the goal is 246 and we're getting there. But right now, it's so rare to find books, especially in romance, that are uh willing to allow characters to make mistakes.
Yes.
Aren't like massive mistakes, but like miscommunication, that's real life,
Yeah. I
misreading the
honestly think
signs.
I think miscommunication is the most realistic romance trope.
I agree.
The most realistic. Because like, I know like for a fact when I'm reading a romance novel and there's miscommunication, I do feel like, oh my God, just talk to each other already. But like how many times in my life have I not talked to someone, even though
Yeah.
I know I should because I'm afraid of, what's going to happen after that or how the conversation's going to go. Like miscommunication is the most realistic romance trope, and I will die on that hill.
You know what? What is the most realistic romance trope? I think second chance romance. I think it's really realistic.
Yes.
Someone makes a mistake, maybe you walk away for a while or life happens and time passes by. You bump into each other again, and then one thing leads to another, and you choose to pursue it again. You choose to give it a
Yeah.
second chance. Your book, I feel like it provides that tenderness in temporary contemporary romance. Even I'd love to see that in fantasy more, where 'cause I know you said your heart was it did begin in fantasy.
Yes.
I just feel like life is already hard as it is. Finding a character in a book who has the compassion to, if the main character is crying, when he cooks for her family and when he listens to her talk about her interests and the highs and lows at her job and like the mundane
Yeah.
things, there's such a tenderness and like there's such a level of patience. Like he's just waiting for it to be the right time. He's trying to listen to
Yeah.
what she's saying and not just what he wants from the situation.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not controlling. He's sassy. He has his
Yes, he
moments.
is.
He has his
He does.
moments.
He does.
Uh, and for readers, if you want to know what those moments are, you got to read this. I won't give you all the details, but if you can see, I did annotate a little bit. I just feel like we finally got a male love interest who's just as vulnerable and just as open as our female main character. And that was so refreshing. Like it reminded me a lot of Hannah Bonham Young's writing with the book Next to You and Out on a Limb. It's so
I love her
important.
writing so much.
Her writing is so beautiful, and your book felt exactly like
Yeah.
what those books made me feel, which was safe.
Oh,
The male love interest and the female, there was a certain level of like she felt safe with him.
yeah,
And that means a lot in real world and in fiction. People who read this will be able to see, you know what, I want this in real life. Like
exactly.
I want
And
that
and I
too.
think I think my goal with, romance, obviously it started out with I want to make people feel the way romance novels make me feel. But
Mm,
I think somehow I feel like it's bigger than that now. It's like I want to also help people realize that they shouldn't have to settle, and
agreed.
they need to have higher standards because oh my God, I am tired of seeing so many women lower their standards just because there's like 90% of the men out there seem to be mediocre, and the other 10% are very difficult to find.
I can
Uh,
understand that. And
yeah, yeah.
romance in
And I think
general.
romance in general, yeah, I mean,
Romance in
whether
general.
it's, heterosexual or whether it's straight romance or queer romance, like,
It's tough out here.
yeah, yeah,
There's a metaphor that I made up in high school,
yeah.
and your book perfectly falls into that category. There's three categories of romance. This was my theory, before
Okay,
I fell in love. Cupid hit me. So romance falls into three categories. You've got takeout, wedding cake, and groceries. Takeout
okay.
is when you have a short-term relationship where it kind of just hits the spot for now. The relationship is interesting, the conversations are okay. Maybe you're there for the very good looking, or maybe they're just nice to spend time with, or you're lonely.
Yeah,
It just kind of fits for now, kind of like takeout. It lasts for a few days, maybe a little
yeah,
while. Then you have wedding cake, where it's sweet and warm, and it kind of is filling that picture in your mind of what you're going for during the time.
yeah.
Rose-colored glasses are on. We're all up in lovey-dovey
Yes.
land, super happy. Your book is groceries. It's the things we
Okay.
need. it's the things that fill us up and kind of help us prepare warm, amazing meals long term.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I think that's how love should be, right? It should be like the
Mhm.
groceries.
Exactly. Everyone wants
Yes.
wedding cake where it's bubbly and amazing and social media posts and everything is picturesque and that's okay for a while. But there's something to be said for after the wedding to just the marriage and the relationship and the friendship.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
it's everyday,
Exactly.
enjoying, okay, we've got three oranges and we've got bread and we've got tea and I guess we're having breakfast for dinner and that's like true love.
Yeah.
It's
100%. Yeah.
groceries. Yeah, you want to love like
Yeah.
groceries. hmm
Oh
That's
my
my
God, that's so
theory.
beautiful.
That's my theory. All right.
I love that theory.
Thank
Oh my
you.
God, I love
Thank
it.
you. You also made me feel like I'm not a huge drinker, but I do drink on occasion. You made me think of that metaphor for groceries, finding someone who like looks forward to seeing you and looks forward to you being in the room. There is an element to the book about scent, which I thought was very beautiful. The
Yeah.
main character has a signature scent, and her love interest is like obsessed. He loves it. He loves it. He
Yeah.
made a mocktail that's inspired by her. I
Cocktail,
was
cocktail,
it was a yes, it was a cocktail. It was
cocktail. Yeah.
rose themed, super cute.
Yes.
I was wondering, did you ever test that out in real life? Did you ever see that drink? What inspired that element of the book for you, that
Yeah.
specific element?
So this is a really funny story, to be honest. So at the
No.
time of writing this book, I used to wear rose-scented perfume. Okay. And I really liked it. And I used to think like, oh, it would be so cool if, somebody was like into me and they could tell when I walk into the room because of the scent. And so that kind of inspired that. And so when I was coming up with the recipe for the cocktail, because the cocktail is called the whipped rose,
hmm
and I was just writing that scene. I think it's in chapter 2 or 3 where he kind of tells her what's in the cocktail when he makes it for her for the first time. And I did like a 5 minute Google search of like rosy cocktails, and I mixed like three recipes. I combined three recipes and just made something up, made up an ingredients list, and I just put that in the book.
I
And I
love
didn't
it.
think too much of it. I was like, I mean, like no one's gonna actually make a cocktail out of this. Like, but then fast forward like a long time later, when we were deciding the pre-order campaign for Match Me If You Can, my marketing team said, hey, so the whipped rose cocktail, like that sounds really nice. Could you write out the official like recipe for it so people can make it at home? And I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? What if it tastes horrible? I just threw together that random list of ingredients.
Inspiration
So
strikes. It just happens.
yeah. And then I remember this was around the time of my birthday last year. Uh, was it last year? Was it this year? I think it was this year. Oh my God, I'm losing track of time.
I do the
Yeah,
same
it
thing.
it
It's
was
okay.
yeah, I think it was this year. And it was my birthday. My birthday was coming up, and I was having a party for my friends. And I decided I would serve the whipped rose, like its debut would happen at my birthday party,
I
and
love
everyone would have to
that.
drink it. And so my dad and I went, grocery shopping. We went to the liquor store and we got like a bunch of alcohol because this is a potent drink. And then the night of my birthday party, I just spent it making that drink, and everybody loved it.
Oh,
And I honestly think, even though I threw that recipe together at the last moment, it actually is so delicious. And if you want to try the recipe, it is on my Instagram page. You
yes.
got to scroll down a bit, but it's there somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will also find a way to share it on my page as well. I was thinking
Yeah.
about maybe making a reel or something where I recreate the drink, but I make it as like a mocktail or something. So
Yeah, 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 yeah,
we'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But it looked so good in the book. Because I imagined everything in my mind, but it looked so
Yeah.
good. And I was just really curious about what was your favorite scene to write in the book? Like, do you imagine it in your mind as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually found out on Twitter, like I saw something that a lot of people can't visualize things in their head. Like if I say apple, a lot of people will not picture like a juicy red apple, but I
Hmm,
do. Like
I
I
do as
can I
well.
can see the apple. Yeah, a few people cannot see anything in their mind. Like when you say like describe an image, they literally cannot see anything, and that blows my mind. but yeah, I can see things fairly well.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I could definitely like visualize a lot of the scenes in my head. And I think one scene in particular that I really loved, wait, no spoilers, right? But there is one scene where like he walks in on her trying on like a wedding dress, and it's like a
Mhm.
really really beautiful scene. No spoilers beyond
No
that, but I think
spoilers.
that was like one of the most, I think, sexually pent up and like tense scenes in that book. And like uh it wasn't even just that scene, but it was like the aftermath of that scene where they're both kind of like thinking about what just happened and coming to terms with like how they're really feeling about each other. Like that was, I think, one of my favorite scenes to write. There's also a speed dating mixer that happens in the book. And oh my God,
Hmm.
that's another scene that I loved. I remember my father, when the arcs of Match Me If You Can came out. Obviously, I gave copies to my parents as well. And my dad was reading Match Me If You Can, the arc. And when he got to the speed dating scene, he actually messaged me and he said, "Do we actually have things like this in India? Like, can I go?" And I
What?
was like, "Appa, you're married. You can't go to a speed dating mix." And he's like, "Oh man, I missed my chance. Like this sounds so cool."
I love
And yeah.
was the dad in the book inspired in part a little bit by your dad's personality?
Not so much, because I think my dad is a lot more like obsessed with finances
Ah,
and just like he's like the finance guy. Like he was a banker, so he's like a finance guy, and
okay.
his whole vibe is I'm like he's got like that provider mindset. Like that's my dad. Like he's I think he has his moments where he's similar to the dad in Match Me If You Can, but I think that kind of came out of more so like just what I would hope um my future partner would be like as a
Hmm.
supportive dad in the future, minus the little anxieties that the dad does have every now and then.
I hear that. I feel like the relationship between Gia's dad and Jemin, like the way that he loved the father.
Yes.
Once again, it's not necessarily a spoiler, but I think it's an important characteristic going into this book is to understand that the love story is important, but there's also a love story between the family and
Yeah.
the love interest. I feel like he's just as
Yes.
intertwined. Like he loved, I feel like there's so much, I just so rare to find a book where like
Yeah.
the found family is so
Exactly.
potent and real. Like that was the star of the
Yeah.
show for me. Was the slow burn. The slow burn was beautiful. Um, and the he falls first. All my followers are a huge fan of He Falls First. We love a
He
golden
falls
retriever
first.
man. We
Top
love
tier.
it.
Top tier.
We
Yeah.
love it. But the found family really like swept me off my feet. You just I feel like I've just did this entire episode's been me fangirling about your writing, but like I
I
can't
mean,
say that.
I'm all for it. I'm here for it.
We
Fangirl all
need
you want.
I don't think you understand how amazing you are. But I also was a little bit, wondering what are three words you would use to describe the love story in Match Me If You Can?
Hmm.
What are three words if you had to describe like this love story?
Okay, okay, okay.
Hmm.
I
Tough.
think the first one would inevitably have to be slow burn.
Okay.
This book is hella slow burn, all right? Like to anyone listening, if you want like, quick, I don't know, quick spice, or like, they end up like falling into bed together like very quickly, you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to build that patience muscle before you read this book because it takes a while.
It's worth it. Our
Yeah, it's
listen
so worth it.
readers,
I
it's
I
worth
agree, yeah.
it. Okay? This is the equivalent of drum roll. It all leads up to
Oh
that
my God,
moment.
yes. Oh
Oh
my
my
God,
gosh.
yes.
But like when I tell you the mutual pining, once it hits, amazing,
Yeah,
wonderful, like
yeah,
spectacular, 10
yeah.
out of 10.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
so you
yeah,
got slow
the
burn is
slow
one. I'll
burn.
give you one
Yeah.
word. That's gonna be one. What are your two
Okay,
words?
that's one word, right? Yeah. Okay. The
Yeah, that's gonna
next
count
two
as one.
words, I want to say chaotic, because I think there's a lot of chaos on the way to their happily ever after. Just like not just like externally, but also like internal chaos of like, the push and pull of like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Does she like me?
Mhm.
Does she not like me? Is this worth, potentially losing our friendship if it doesn't work out, like all that push and pull of, the friends to lovers. And I think the final one would just have to be, I don't know, I feel like it's like a sense of like familiarity, I guess, or like home.
Mhm.
I think the word I would say is home. Like I think they're each other's home, and like they've always been each other's home. Like home is where the other person is for them.
Wow.
And I think that's true from like page one, because like Gia knows that, if she goes to her place, she knows Jamon's probably gonna be there with her family. Like
Yeah,
she goes home and he's there, and there are moments in the book where she's kind of annoyed by that. Like, why is he always here? Like with my family. But I know for a fact that like if he weren't there, she would be. And there's actually a scene in the book where like he's not there, and she's like, why isn't he here? So yeah,
I felt
definitely I think
that.
home. Home is something I would use to describe how much how safe they feel around each other, and like how familiar the other person's presence is.
I I can't even describe how warm this book feels. If this book was a time of day, it would be like a sunset. It would really be like winding down and like
Yeah, I mean, there's a
romantic in a
sunset on the
natural
cover
way.
as well, so
Well, there's that as well. So there's that as well. Um,
yeah,
the vibes of this book, obviously, I cannot say that this book it is inspired by Emma immediately, but if I had to give this book like a movie reference that it's very similar to because of the blog element, the
yeah,
main character does have a blog. She also works for a newspaper at one point, like a magazine, but she has her
magazine.
own secret blog, which is on the back. She also has a pen pal, an anonymous pen
Yeah.
pal, which is wonderful for folks who
Yeah.
love that, like, you're with someone during the day and then at night you get a message and you just don't know who
Yeah.
it's from.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite parts in the book was the little messages she got and this concept that I couldn't stop thinking about once you brought it up, which was the one. You know, the one. Like the is
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
real? Is it not? Is it fate? Is it choice? That is one of the first blog posts she makes, which is about the one. And I was
Yeah.
curious, do you believe in that?
I go back and forth on it. Like there's another character in the book named Charu who's like the astrology writer, and she's all for, the one is like fated and it's like destined, and like there's only one for you out there. And Gia is heavily on the camp of like you choose the one for you. Like you mentioned in that quote that you read out earlier. I think I go back and forth, but I think at the end of the day, just because, um someone like I think this would make a really good dystopian book. And I think there's already isn't there already a book like this where like you're told that this is the person you're meant to be with and this is the
Matched.
one for
It's
you,
something
the
like that.
match.
She's in a little green ball, like a
Yes,
little
yes, yes, yes,
teardrop.
yes. I forgot what that
Oh
book is
yeah.
called, but yeah, I think it's the match or something like that.
Dystopian,
Yeah.
young adult.
Yes,
She's in her
yes.
little drop. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I really feel like there's some days, when I'd be frustrated about like my love life. I'd be like, I wish someone could just tell me who my future partner is and just introduce me to them. Like, and I'll be like,
Mhm.
cool, and I'll, just. But then I think about how the one isn't just someone who feels right, but who acts right as well. Someone who's
Mm.
like who's actually there, and like even on their bad days, you're like, no, I'm gonna choose this person anyway, even though they're like making me feel really mad right now, they're making me feel really annoyed right now. I know that at the end of the day, once these negative or angry feelings simmer down, this is gonna be that big foundation of love.
Yeah.
And I want to build on that, even when there's like, rocks falling out of place every now and then because of whatever life throws our way. So I think I'd say I'm more with Gia on this of like, I think the one is someone you make the one. Like you choose
Mm.
who the one is for you. And I think there's another
Wow.
line she says where like, and like if you feel like you've chosen the one for you and then you realize, wait, this is actually not the person I'm supposed to be with, that's fine too. I think there's a line she says something like the next one will come along and life will go
Mhm.
on. And I
Exactly.
think that's very true as well. And that's another thing I really want to discuss in the book is that if you just believe that someone if you believe in this concept of the one and you meet someone and you're like, there's nobody else out there for me, I can't find anyone else. Like that's a really dangerous mindset to be in because I've seen a lot of friends of mine, stay in bad relationships because they thought they wouldn't find anyone else. And like maybe this is it. But
That can be
like
harmful
that's really harmful, right?
and
So
limiting as
limiting
well.
too, right?
There's people
Yeah.
all over the world. The concept of like, I think, I think there's something to be said for the fact that there's so many people in the world. And
Yeah.
yes, you could easily meet the love of your life through a friend of a friend of a friend, which happens. It happens.
It happens.
But sometimes you meet the love of your life at an airport. Sometimes you meet them at a grocery store in a town you don't live in. Sometimes you meet them at a wedding of someone you barely know. Like
Yeah.
they could be they could be 2 years older, 2 years younger. They could be somewhere internationally right now. Like they could be
Yeah, exactly.
anywhere. So don't limit yourself to Pam or Jim down the street because that actually may not be the best person out there for you. They're just there. They're just there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, what's not your cup of tea, maybe someone else's perfect cup of tea. Like
Yeah.
I the way that Gia is so outspoken and driven and she is determined to make something work so she can reach a certain point in her career and in her goals.
Yeah.
I loved how career driven she was. I loved how she had like, I got a goal, I got a plan,
Yeah.
which connected beautifully to the story of Emma. There's that modern kind of retelling of it, the matchmaker element.
Yeah.
But I loved how her love interest, he does call her out and say like, these are real people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, your goals and your interests and things like that, they matter, but these are real people. They're not objects. Love
They're
isn't a
not
game.
toys.
Yeah, they're not
They're
toys.
not
Like
dolls you can just play with. Yeah.
exactly. I feel like he grounded the story in a beautiful way. And I think that connects beautifully what you said. Don't limit yourself. If this book teaches you anything, the love of your life, the person who you build that the one element with, um, I think sometimes the one can give off a concept of scarcity. There's only one.
Exactly.
Um, their love can show up in many ways for people who lose loved
Yeah.
ones and think, I'll never find love again. I'll never find love again. You may end up, this is I may be taboo, but I think it's beautiful when people find love again years on the line, or they find a friend
Yeah.
who later becomes something more. Like
Exactly.
people get lonely. Like they deserve to explore
100%.
love again, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. And I think like although the concept of the one in the traditional the way the movies and the books portray of like there's only one person
mhm,
out there for you, that is scarcity 100%. But I think if you look at it in the way of like the one is a choice,
I agree.
that's kind of empowerment. That's a sense of empowerment you feel when you
Mhm.
say, my partner is the one for me because I chose them.
I get that. You
Like,
don't fall into love, you step into it. You actively take steps
yeah, yeah.
to get to where you want to be. There's a saying from this show. I think about it all the time where someone asks like, "What's a soulmate?" I do not remember the show, so if someone out there
Oh,
remembers, dear, comment below. But they say like, "What is a soulmate?" And it's a best friend but more.
I love that.
And I was like, "Wow," there was someone else who said that like soulmates aren't found, they're made.
They're made. Yeah, yeah, that's from the good place. Yeah.
Yes, and
That's actually that quote is actually in my next book.
oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kismet, what? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, please slide it to me. But I need more. But I just think that's a beautiful concept. I think books inspire us to be brave in real life. Putting yourself out there is
Yeah.
scary. I felt for Jimin, like, there's someone in the book who keeps poking at someone saying, "Why don't you do it now? Why don't you do it now?" And it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, in real life. You could lose the
Yeah.
friendship. What if you do it at the
Lose
wrong
the
time?
and the found family as well, right? Like, because he's got so
Exactly.
much at stake here. It's
So
not just her
yeah.
that he loves, it's like her whole family. Like they
He
are
fell
his
for
family.
everything.
Yeah.
Oof, oof. You made the stakes high. You're one of those authors where it's like, gosh, this must be really stressful. Continues writing, and I'm like, oh, please give me some peace. And you're like, no, no, we've got five more
Yeah.
chapters of chaos. Um, but
Oh yeah,
I
oh yeah.
loved it. You took the
Yeah.
writer on an amazing ride. And when we do reach that Ooh, I'm gonna make a little Pretty Little Liars reference. I loved that show. But someone described love as a roller coaster, and finding the right person is like finally coming to that, like you finally land and you stop the
Oh, I
ride, you
love
look
that.
up, and then the love of your life is there. They're always right there.
That's beautiful.
So
Yeah.
beautiful. Your book felt like that. It felt like the loops and the this person loves me, but I don't love them. Almost like a Midsummer Night's Dream where it's like everyone loves the opposite and who's gonna end up
Yeah,
with who.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but when like the confetti is gone and like the smoke clears from the party, when you do see that the two finally like something connects,
Yeah,
it feels so earned. It feels so earned. And there was another quote where I'll just share it really quickly,
yeah,
where someone says, maybe falling in love wasn't a choice, but working on nurturing that love within a relationship absolutely was.
yeah.
Um, wow. Hats off. Your writing is
Thank
so
you.
beautiful. And I wish that I could like teleport this book to all my listeners and be like, hey guys, like hop into the feelings with me. But I will be linking the
Mm,
book below. I will
yes.
also have it linked in my bio on my Instagram and on the blog page. But tell us where we can find you. Tell us where they can find all the things.
Yeah. So I am most active on Instagram. So you can find me at Swati Hegde author. Simple enough to remember. And I post very often. I post like almost every day. I post like funny reels about
Okay.
Alyssa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My computer froze.
You froze. Yeah. Should I go back to what I said?
Yes, please continue.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll just start from the beginning of my where can you find me? Okay, yeah. Okay. So I'm most active on Instagram at Swati Hegde author. Easy enough to remember. I post like every day. I post like a bunch of reels, which are like sometimes funny, sometimes inspiring, always about my writing journey and my books. And yeah, Match Me If You Can is my first book, but I have another book coming out. I actually have a bunch of books coming out. Can't talk about all of them, but right now I can talk about Can't Help Faking in Love, which is a fake dating desi romance. And this also has He Falls First, by the way.
I
Just
love
saying.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Keep it coming. Keep them all coming. Make sure
yeah,
he
yeah,
falls
yeah.
first in all of them. I don't care. You will find a way to
Yeah.
keep it fresh,
Yeah.
100%. I'm like,
I mean, the book I have coming out in 2026, he cannot fall first because it's a sapphic romance, so there's no he. So I want to talk about that as well for a quick second. I don't have a cover yet because, 2026, it's my young adult debut. It's a queer young adult romance called As Long as You Loathe Me,
ooh,
because I have been blessed by, the title gods, and I've got like amazing titles for all of my books, clearly.
amazing.
So yeah. So I know, Alyssa, you wanted to talk about like my queer debut just because you love queer romance and you're queer yourself. You're okay with sharing that,
I
right?
am
Yeah. Okay, cool,
100%.
cool, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Everyone knows. Yeah.
Okay, great, great, great. Just checking. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So although obviously I do want to talk about Can't Help Faking in Love as well, because this is, releasing in February 11th, on February 11th, in the US, and in October in like British Commonwealth countries.
Cool.
I also want to talk about As Long As You Loathe Me because I'm currently like editing that book with my editor's notes, and it's like Never Have I Ever from Netflix meets Mean Girls.
I
It's
love
like,
it.
yeah, like I think the tagline for that book that I want, on the cover, I want it to be bring down the cheerleader, just don't fall in love with her.
Ooh.
Like that's like the vibe. That's like the vibe. Yeah, it was actually inspired by a Taylor Swift music video.
Which one?
You belong with me. I was like, okay, like she's pining over this guy. What if she decides to like sabotage his relationship with the cheerleader, but then she ends up falling in love with the cheerleader? And what if the cheerleader is her ex best friend?
What?
And
I love
that's my
your
book.
mind. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Oh my
Yeah. So
God.
so stay tuned for that. And if you're listening in and you want to know all about my books, I'm at Swati Hegde author on Instagram. Follow me there for all the goodness and all the slow burn, angsty, fluffy, fun, emotionally resonant romance that you're looking for.
Absolutely. I will link your Instagram in my bio. I will also have it linked in my blog. And I can't tell you how excited I am for both of your books. Queer representation means so much to me. Representation for minorities means so much to me. Love, especially romance, sci-fi, adventure. We need to
Yeah.
see more people of color, and we need to see more found family. And especially just with craziness going on in the world. It's so important
Yeah.
to find happiness and love. Your book is such a ray of light. I'm so grateful that you came on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're amazing. And guys, keep an eye out for their next book in February if you're in the US, and then October if you are in the UK.
UK and like Commonwealth countries as well. So like India, Malaysia as well, I think, and like Australia and like I don't know, it's a bunch of it's like all the Commonwealth countries. There's like a huge list of them.
Order your book as well, the closer they get to that date.
Yeah, I think pre-orders for like Commonwealth and UK countries will probably open in like I don't know, mid 2025 probably.
Cool, cool,
But
cool.
but if you're in the if you're in the US, you can you can buy Match Me if you can now. You can pre-order Can't Help Faking in Love.
I'm so
Yeah,
excited for all of your books. Thank you for everyone
thank
who
you.
listened to this episode. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.